Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. Yes, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Anand is not here, Shashwat is not here. It's just me alone today. Shashwat is busy, he's out somewhere. Anand is also traveling, so it's just me today. I wanted to do a little bit of a follow up on the video yesterday about the bonds. Yes, it was a highly intellectual conversation. It is a kind of conversation if you're a seasoned investor and you know what is happening about bonds and you know what are bonds, you'll be able to follow along and you'll understand. A lot of lay people like me and Rupesh was behind the camera. We're left wondering, what is this whole fuss about? What is this? What are we supposed to garner from this as a small investor like me and Rupesh? What do we do with this information? So I thought I'd do that today and give it up like a follow up for simpletons like me and Rupesh to understand what was this conversation about yesterday. So if you are an esteemed investor and a person who's very knowledgeable, you may want to skip this video and leave us simpletons alone and not light up our comments with something rude and nasty. Especially about me and Rupesh. So what was yesterday's discussion about? Well, the discussion is about a simple thing about pricing difference. Meaning, we see this in the market all the time. Find a product at a certain price. Someone wants to compete against that product. The only way he can compete is either he lower the price or he offers more. Correct? So same is true for the bond market. The American government borrows money and they borrow through issuing bonds. And these bonds have a certain interest rate. They offer a certain amount of interest for the amount of money they're borrowing from you when you buy the bond. That is what it is. So if you're a corporate and you need to borrow money, you need to compete against the American government. Now the Fed has raised the interest rate to a certain level. So what do you do as a corporate? You need to borrow. If you go offer the same rate, why will they borrow from you? Because they rather give it to the government. Because the government of America is safe. It's sovereign. They can print as many dollars as they want. So why will he give it to you? Is a question. So what do you do as a corporate? You offer a little more. You say, okay, I'll give you 0.5% more, 1% more. You entice the public into buying your bond. What Shashwat was saying was that is known as a spread. The difference between the corporate and the government, that is known as a bond spread. So what Shashwat was saying is that is disappeared in the US. Why would it disappear? It would only disappear if there is so much of customers or people cash in the market and people are clamoring for any form of bonds that I as a corporate don't need to offer because there's such a huge market. There's enough space for the American government to sell bonds and there's enough space for me to sell bonds at the same rate and I don't have to worry. To the point Shashwat was saying, even people who are selling absolute junk, meaning there's no security in these bonds, there's no guarantees in this bond. And those bonds usually are at a much higher rate because as an investor, you're taking on a lot of risk. You do not know if your money is going to come back. And for that risk, of course, you're paid very handsomely, meaning you're paid twice, thrice, whatever you want to imagine as a fancy amount. You're paid that much more because you're taking on that much more risk. It's like banking an unknown star in a movie. But even those guys are able to offer very nominal rates close to the yield of the American government, the American interest rate. Simple reason because there's so much of liquid cash running around. So that was what was the discussion about. So then Shashwat was asking Anand, why is this so? Because it doesn't make sense. So Anand said that it is mainly because the American government, the investors who are buying believe that the American government is going to cut interest rates soon and they're factoring this in, so they're holding these rates. And Shashwat, of course, argued against that and they argued back and forth, which you can watch the video if you're really seasoned about it. But if you're not like me and Rupesh, at the end, what Anand says is he doesn't believe the Fed is going to cut these kind of interest rates. If anything, going forward, you will see American corporate bond rates increasing because they would lose this liquidity, this easiness of selling their bonds would vanish slowly because the rates are at this level. And the American government is very eager on borrowing more money because it's doing all kinds of things, which you know, which they're doing. It's all over the news, how they're supplying and all kinds of things around the world and they do what they're doing. So American government is right now wanting a lot of money. So this kind of pressure is there on the bond market and the American corporates will be forced to raising the rates they're offering. So this is what Anand feels and this is what he told Shashwat at the end of the video. So what does this all mean to us? There's two people, simpletons here. There's simpletons who are a little more like me, who can afford to buy a few bonds outside India, invest in bonds in the American market. Then we have my friend Rupesh behind the camera who will not be buying bonds outside India. He'll be only buying Indian bonds. So I thought I'll explain what this means for both of us. If you are buying outside India, especially if you're buying in the American market, what should you do? Is a basic question. Well, what Shashwat feels and Anand feels are that you should stay with the American government right now and keep buying American government bonds. Because simple reason, if the American Fed cuts the rates, future bonds will become offering less money. So your bond will be still very valuable because you have locked it in at a higher rate of interest. And if you want corporate bonds also, it's better to wait and keep only buying American government bonds for the simple reason, if the Fed cuts rates, American corporate bonds will stay at the same place as predicted by Shashwat. Or if Anand says, the Fed does not cut rates, American corporates will start increasing their bond rates. So at that time you buy, you will get better yield. You'll get more interest. For every rupee, you will get more. So it is prudent, if you have to buy bonds in the American market right now, to stay in with the US government is what they feel. Now, vice versa, what does this mean to us Indians who are buying Indian bonds? Well, this is only related to American market. This really doesn't have an impact on our Indian bond market, local market, because first of all, the Indian government bonds don't offer anything much compared to inflation, and our corporate rates are much higher, so that spread is there, and it's a healthy spread if you can see, and you can buy Indian corporate bonds and be happy with it. The question then comes to what happens if and when corporate rates, like Anand says, Fed doesn't cut rates and corporates in US start raising their interest rates. How does that affect us? Well, the way it will affect us is our rupee will start becoming weaker because there'll be a flight of capital in India. A lot of FIIs will want to withdraw money and invest it in American corporate bonds. Let's say Apple is offering a bond at a very handsome rate. So if I'm a foreign investor, for all the hassle I have to go through of putting the money in the Indian market and I get, let's say, the same spread as buying an Apple corporate bond, I'd rather buy the Apple corporate bond because it's less hassle and much more secure and easier for me. So you'll see that happening if and when this happens, when corporate bond rates in US start increasing and the spread comes back is between the American treasury yield and the corporate bond rates, then you'll see this kind of money leaving India, and our stock markets, FIs who are speculating in our stock markets might withdraw cash, and you may see market corrections happening at that time, which we as long-term investors might see as a benefit and also invest. As far as the Indian country will be concerned, the rupee as it gets weaker, RBI will try and defend the rupee, and they may take action at that time if this does transpire and happen. So this is in long and short for us simpletons what they were discussing about. So now if you're buying bonds in India, what should you be paying attention to? Well, there are 4 types of bonds in India which you can see. One is the secured bonds, which are backed by collateral and offer lower risk, so they offer lower interest. Then you have the unsecured bonds, which are not backed by any collateral, so they offer higher risk and they offer more interest. Then you have the convertible bonds. Convertible bonds means when the bonds mature, you have the option of taking them as shares in the company rather than getting your cash back. Then you have the non-convertible debentures, which cannot be converted into shares but offer higher interest rates. So these are the kind of bonds which you see. Out of which, what are most common are the secured and unsecured bonds are what's most common, and they have different credit ratings in India. You have the CRISIL and ICRA and CARE, which bond credit rating, and a good bond which has a good rating, that means a high rating, means it's very safe. Those are usually AAA, AA, indicating they're low risk, but of course they'll offer less money. And lower ratings such as BBB and BB, etc., are more risky by the credit agency because those people are not so creditworthy is what the agencies feel, and they potentially offer higher rates of interest compared to the other ones. So these are the things you should keep in mind. Of course, bonds are taxed now. Income is taxed as per your income slab, and capital gains and short-term gains comes into play if you are selling and buying these bonds. So keep in mind of all this. And default risk, do understand whomsoever's bond you're buying, what their default risk is, and do read all this literature and the company information, like how we do before buying a share, about whose bond you're buying. These are the basic things you should keep in mind. And bond accounts are kept in the same account as your share account, demat account. So if you have a demat account which you're already buying shares in, you can use the same account to buy bonds in. And it would, like how we say, have a good financial advisor before buying shares. It will also be good to have a very good bond advisor before you start buying bonds, someone who knows what the risks are and what the pitfalls and dangers are. Just because you see a bond, like how we say, just because you see a bond on an app or somewhere you can just click and buy it, don't do that. Do not follow people on social media and buy bonds. It would be my advice to you. So This is the long and short of what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found this video informative and entertaining, and it gave you a bit of knowledge and a bit of confidence in what's happening with the bond market. And for those of you who are finding it hard to understand what Anand and Shashwat were arguing about yesterday, I hope it gave you some clarity and why that discussion was there and why it is important for all of us what happens to the American bond market and the American government and to the US dollar. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye.
It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.